often my timing and will could have destroyed me. If I'd have got it any sooner, it would have crushed me.
So T.D. Jakes just delivered one of the most profound challenges to modern faith culture: why we should celebrate God's no more than his yes. This completely flips prosperity gospel thinking and dives deep into divine timing, unanswered prayers, and why our dysfunction can become our identity. Let's break this down.
We must be grateful for even when God doesn't answer prayers and even when God says no. In fact, I would dare to say to you that I shout more over closed doors than I do open ones.
This is radical theology. Most prosperity preachers teach that God's silence equals lack of faith. But celebrating closed doors more than open ones? That's Isaiah 55:8 lived out. His thoughts aren't our thoughts. It takes spiritual maturity to trust divine rejection over human desire.
Every situation that comes up in my life that seems insurmountable, I cast my cares on him because I understand that everything God does is strategic.
The word strategic here means God operates like a master chess player, not a reactive referee. Every move serves multiple purposes we can't see. Romans 8:28 isn't just comfort. It's describing divine strategy, where even opposition advances his ultimate plan.
For you see, because he was blind in his eyes, it had affected every area of his life. His self-esteem, his masculinity, his income, his commerce, his marketability are all affected because one thing has gone wrong in his life. And he has made a job out of being dysfunctional.
Psychologists call this secondary gain, the hidden benefits we get from staying broken. Disability checks, sympathy, avoided responsibilities. But this goes deeper than physical blindness. How many people build entire identities around being the victim, the sick one, the struggling one?
Like all of us who don't get well, we create an ecosystem of survival that's built around our dysfunction. And some of us refuse to get well because we fall in love with being sick.
This hits at codependency and learned helplessness. When dysfunction becomes comfortable, healing feels threatening. Think about it. If you've been the broken one for years, getting whole means losing that role, that attention, that excuse structure you've built your life around.
It says that he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when I read it, I couldn't help but get excited because it reminded me that God doesn't let everything go wrong at the same time. That even though the man couldn't see, he could hear.
Here's hope for anyone feeling overwhelmed. God's a master at preservation. He doesn't allow total destruction. When your marriage falls apart, he preserves your children. When you lose your job, he preserves your skills. There's always something left to work with.
Isn't it nice to know that God doesn't need anything that you lost to bless you?
That's right.
That God will use what you've got left to bless you? That he'll take what is within close proximity to you and allow you to hear.
This destroys the if-only mentality. If only I had my health back, my money back, my relationship back. God specializes in resurrection power using whatever remains. David had just a sling when facing Goliath, and that was enough.
And he sensed something that is never said. The fierce urgency of now. Nobody told him that this would be the last walk Jesus took. That this would be the last chance that he would have to get an earthly miracle from an earthly Christ, that he was on his way to Calvary.
Bartimaeus had prophetic discernment without realizing it. Sometimes the Holy Spirit creates urgency in our spirits when opportunity windows are closing. That restless feeling, that sense of now or never, that's often divine timing breaking through human awareness.
So the first thing you got to have is vision. And then the second thing you got to have is enough courage to be disruptive. He wasn't worried about being politically correct, fitting in, being popular, being accepted. He wasn't worried about the tone or the pitch of his voice. He was not afraid to get loud.
In our cancel culture era, this hits different. Being politically correct can literally cost you your miracle. Sometimes breakthrough requires being willing to be misunderstood, criticized, or rejected by the crowd. Truth often sounds disruptive to comfortable lies.
I just want you to fix the little thing that has shut down everything in my life. And everybody has a little thing that shut down everything in their life. And if you fix this one thing, I can fix the rest of it myself.
Every breakthrough has a bottleneck. One addiction blocks 10 blessings. One unforgiveness stops 5 relationships. One fear kills 3 dreams. Identify your one thing, that keystone issue that's created a domino effect of dysfunction in multiple life areas.
And the disciples that were with Jesus told him to shut up. But when you sense urgency, you can't let man shut you down.
Even Jesus' own disciples tried to silence desperation. Well-meaning people often become dream killers because they're uncomfortable with intensity. Sometimes the very people who should encourage your breakthrough are the ones telling you to calm down or be realistic.
He cried all the more until he did something that few in the Bible can ever say they did. He cried out till God stood still. And there's somebody right now who needs a miracle so bad that you need to cry out until God stands still.
Only a handful of biblical characters literally stopped God in his tracks. Moses at the burning bush, Jacob wrestling the angel, this blind beggar. Most prayers bounce off heaven's ceiling, but some prayers are so desperate they arrest divine attention.
In other words, the cry of the blind arrested the sights of Jesus. Good God of mercy. And he arrested him to the degree that all of a sudden Jesus stood still and commanded that he be called.
This is staggering theology. Human desperation can actually alter God's immediate plans. Not his eternal purposes, but his immediate route. The creator of the universe stopped walking because one broken man refused to stay silent. That's the power of faith-filled desperation.
Isn't it funny how God will make your enemies your footstools? Isn't it funny how God will use the very people who didn't want you to holler anymore to commanded them that he be called. He made them reverse the curse.
Come on.
God's vindication is often poetic justice. The same voices that tried to silence your breakthrough become the messengers announcing your blessing. Joseph's brothers who sold him into slavery eventually bowed before him. Your critics often become your confirmation.
He had to answer the call blind.
Yes. Wow.
Jesus didn't come to him, and they didn't go get him. They just called him. And that means that he had to go toward Jesus blind.
Come on.
And I have learned over the 45 years of my ministry that most of the time I was moving toward him blind.
Here's a 45-year ministry veteran admitting he built everything while walking blind. Most people wait for clarity before moving, but faith moves toward God's voice without needing to see the entire staircase. This validates every believer stumbling forward in faith.
I couldn't see my way clear. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know who I was going to hire. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I'd have to do. But if you are willing to go toward what you hear blind, God will do amazing things in your life.
Look at the evidence. He built a mega ministry, movie empire, and global influence without having it all figured out first. This destroys perfectionism paralysis. You don't need a complete business plan to start obeying God's call on your life.
He went to him blind, but he didn't go from him blind.
Come on. That's right.
Because once you make it to Jesus, he will make everything all right.
Real encounters with Jesus are transformational, not just transactional. You don't leave the same way you came. This isn't about getting what you want. It's about being fundamentally changed by divine contact. The miracle isn't just sight, it's a new identity.
And when I go into a business session, they always teach that the best place to build a business is around a problem. That if you find your problem, you found your business. Because if your business solves a problem, you don't have to spend much money marketing it. For example, you don't have to spend a lot of money marketing hospitals.
That's right.
Because it solves a problem. The fact that it is the answer is its own marketing.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to market to a great degree funeral homes because there will always be clients, because there will always be death. Anytime you find a business that solves a problem, you are going to be successful.
Christianity endures because it solves humanity's core problems: guilt, meaninglessness, death, separation from God. While other philosophies offer theories, Christ offers solutions. The gospel addresses every human need at the deepest level. That's why it spreads organically.
The reason our God has withstood the test of time, the reason the Bible is still the best-selling book in the world, the reason that our God is called on every continent on this earth in one language or another is because he is the problem solver. He is the mountain mover.
2,000 years later, Jesus is still the most recognized name on earth. The Bible outsells every other book annually. Christianity thrives on every continent. This isn't marketing success. It's proof that Christ actually solves the problems he claims to solve.
And we spend time and months and years and sometimes decades before we finally learn that we are not as smart as we thought we were. And we don't know as much as we think we know. And we don't have as much as we think that we have. And finally, with humility, we bow our heads before his grace and submit to his sovereign plan and understand the manifold wisdom of God, that God knows everything about everything.
Age brings the gift of realizing how little we actually know. Young people think they can figure out God's plans, but decades of walking with him teaches you to trust his wisdom over your understanding. Humility is often wisdom earned through mistakes.
The grape does not say to the master vintner, "Excuse me, but now is the right time to act." No, he hangs on the vine and waits, counting on the master to know when to pluck me and when to crush me and when to convert me and when to preserve me, because he knows when to do what in your life.
Winemaking requires crushing, fermentation, and aging, all processes that seem destructive but create something valuable. God knows exactly how much pressure you can handle, when to crush you, when to let you ferment in difficulty, and when you're ready to be poured out.
There are some things that God gave me now. Had he given me 20 years ago, I would have spoiled it. Had he given it to me 10 years ago, I'd have made a mess of it. There are some things that God had to put on hold for such a time as this, that I would be strong enough, old enough, wise enough, at the right season in my life to master well enough what he's given me.
This reframes every delay as divine protection. The promotion that didn't come, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that passed, all potentially saved you from destruction you couldn't see coming. What feels like rejection might be divine redirection.
Are there times in your life that you see God giving you things now that you wanted earlier, but God held them back and let you stay on the vine until it was time to pull you at the right time to produce what he wanted to produce in your life? Because God has a clock that's not our clock. His timetable is not our timetable.
He's referencing Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9, God's ways and thoughts transcending ours. Divine timing operates on eternal principles, not human impatience. What looks like delay to us is precision timing to him. His schedule serves purposes we can't see from our limited perspective.
And if we just humble down and get patient enough to wait on him, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Oh, God, teach me how to wait. Teach me how to wait. Teach me how to wait, even if I have to just hang there like a grape on a vine and wait. Teach me how to hang on and wait on you, because you know just when to pluck me, and you know just when to pull me, and you know just when to expose me, and you know how much light I can bear.
Isaiah 40 verse 31 describes 3 levels of divine strength. Eagles soar above storms, runners push through marathons, walkers endure daily challenges. Waiting on God provides supernatural energy for whatever season you're in. Sometimes you need to soar, sometimes just walk.
Don't let anything shine on me that's too hot for me, because the greater the light, the greater the heat. Often my timing and will could have destroyed me. If I'd have got it any sooner, it would have crushed me.
History is littered with people destroyed by premature success. Lottery winners gone broke, child stars in rehab, politicians corrupted by early power. Sometimes God's greatest mercy is withholding blessings until we have the character to handle them without destruction.
In fact, I would dare to say to you that I shout more over closed doors than I do open ones. Because I trust God that He knows what I can handle and what I can't handle. And if He says no, I say thank you. And if He says yes, I say thank you. And I've learned whatever state I'm in, therewith to be content, because He knows what's best for me.
This is spiritual maturity at its peak, being equally grateful for God's yes and no answers. Most believers throw tantrums when God says no, but trusting His judgment over your preferences is the mark of someone who truly knows His character.
When the Bible says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, the word in the Greek is logos, and logos is more than word, it's thought. It means that everything that God is well thought out. It's well planned. He's not talking out of the top of His head. He's talking out of the depths of His will. And what God has ordered will come to pass. And He has a strategy. He has a strategy.
Logos in Greek means reasoned discourse, divine logic, the rational principle governing the universe. God doesn't react emotionally like humans do. Every word He speaks comes from infinite wisdom and eternal planning. His no is as strategic as His yes.
He knew where the colt was in another village without going there, because God is strategic, and He put the right colt in the right place at the right time so that Jesus could make His entry, a colt that no man had ever sat on before, because God is a strategic God.
The Palm Sunday colt was prepared before Jesus needed it, positioned exactly where required. God's been preparing resources for your breakthrough before you even knew you'd need them. The provision is already in place. You just haven't reached the timing yet.
He knows how hot to make it. He knows how cold to make it. He knows how tough to make it. He knows what it takes to make your son's will break. He knows what it takes to bring your daughter into submission. He knows what it takes to heal your marriage. He knows what it takes to bind up the wounds of your broken heart. And He knows when to do what to get you where you need to be.
God applies precise pressure like a master craftsman. Too little heat won't melt the metal, too much will destroy it. He knows exactly how much adversity, how much blessing, how much waiting each person needs to become who they're destined to be.
This night was like the night before, the night before that, and the night before that, and the night before that. It had become a routine ever since the old man's son had left. He would peek in the room where he once lay and look at the bed he once slept in, and look at the pajamas he once wore, and the cup he once drank from, and the plate he once ate from, and wonder, where is my child tonight?
Every parent with a wayward child knows this agony. The empty room, the unchanged bed, the wondering where they are tonight, if they're safe, if they're alive. The prodigal son story validates the universal experience of loving someone who's chosen a destructive path.
Knowing is the most painful part of it. Uncertainty can almost be fatal. And he couldn't help it, but night after night, he would go to the window and peek out. I know it's silly, I know it's crazy, I know it's ridiculous, but you cannot cut love off with the turning of a switch.
This validates every parent, spouse, or friend watching someone they love destroy their life. The compulsive checking, the sleepless nights, the constant worry, it's not weakness, it's love. You can't just stop caring about people who matter to you.
Anytime we lose something that we love, it's impossible to find the off switch to stop caring about what we care about and stop loving what we love and stop needing what we need. Until one night, while he was going through what would seem like the wasted time of going through the routine of the same thing over and over and over again, and looking at the bed and looking at the pajamas and looking at the plate and looking at the cup and looking out the window.
Those repetitive behaviors aren't pathological. They're expressions of hope and faith. The parent who keeps checking their phone for a call, the spouse who still sets two plates. These rituals aren't unhealthy. They're love refusing to give up.
This time it was different, because when he looked out the window, he saw a form in the shadows, and he knew by the gait of his walk that that was was his son. And he opened up the door and ran out on the front porch.
Love creates intimate knowledge. A mother knows her child's cry in a crowd. A spouse recognizes their partner's footsteps. The father recognized his son even in shadows because love studies every detail of what it treasures. God knows you the same way.
And something in his flesh told him to stand there and be still and be proud and make the boy grovel, but something in his heart said, run. And when you are old, there are not many things that will make you run. But the sight of his son coming home would make him run.
Justice says, make them grovel. Mercy says, run to embrace them. The old man's body probably ached. His dignity said, stay on the porch, but love overruled everything. When restoration is possible, love doesn't calculate cost or consider appearances.
The star of the story is not the prodigal son. It is the relentless love of the Father. For the prodigal son fluctuates, and the elder brother is angry, and the only one stable in the whole story is the Father. And the only one stable in your life is the Father.
The prodigal fluctuates between rebellion and repentance. The elder brother swings between duty and resentment, but the Father remains consistently loving throughout. In your chaos, God is your constant. When everyone else changes, he remains the same yesterday, today, forever.
I want to assure you that whatever state you're in, the star of your story is never your process. It's your promise of the Father that I will wait for you until you find yours.
Your circumstances are temporary process, but God's promises are permanent. The divorce process isn't your story. His promise to restore is. The addiction process isn't your identity. His promise of freedom is. The star isn't your struggle. It's his faithfulness.
I may not know the language you speak or what you have on right now, but the Father told me to tell you he's looking out the window again.
Wow. Thank you.
And he's waiting on you. And he'll take you back.
This isn't about religious performance or meeting moral standards first. It's about coming home to a Father who's been watching for you. The gospel isn't clean up then come. It's come as you are and I'll clean you up.
Even if you smell like the hog pen you've been in. And he'll take you back. Even if it means flies and gnats are all around your head. And he'll take you back even if you have not been washed. And the old man ran out to meet him and covered him with a robe of righteousness that made him appear clean.
The robe comes before the bath. God covers you with righteousness before you're cleaned up. This is justification before sanctification. You're declared clean positionally before you become clean practically. Acceptance precedes transformation, not the other way around.
For without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. And to God be the glory, because the blood sealed the deal. The fatted calf died that the son might live and brought him back into the house again.
The fatted calf represents Jesus, the innocent sacrifice that died so the guilty could live. The Father paid the price for the Son's restoration. This isn't just a nice story, it's the gospel. Christ died that we might be welcomed home.
But he has a place for you at the table, and he's waiting on you. And he told me to say, come and dine. The master called. Come and dine.
Dying to self is Christianity's core message. Not physical death, but ego death, will death, the death of living for yourself. You die to the old identity, old patterns, old priorities to be reborn into new life in Christ. It's death that leads to resurrection.